Special thanks to Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for sponsoring today's video. There are very few discussions of Bleach lore as contentious among the community as the Espada rankings. Did Stark really deserve to be the Primera? Is Ulquiorra actually the strongest of them all? And why was Yami so terrible despite being the Zero Espada? The list goes on, and today I want to add another layer to the debate. Did Harribel really deserve to be the third Espada? Based on everything that we see in the source material, Harribel's standing among the 10 strongest Arrancar of Aizen's army is a tumultuous one. In my opinion, she's without a doubt one of, if not the most disappointing Espada of the bunch. But how much of that is really her fault, and how much of it can instead be attributed to circumstance? Much of Harribel's time at the forefront of the story is marred by strange decisions that don't really make a lot of sense, and a fight that lacks any kind of real impact whatsoever. It's possible she's absolutely strong enough to be deserving of such a high rank, but we see very little real evidence of the sort. Crucially, how does Harribel compare to her contemporaries? Those that rank higher than her, Stark and Barragan, but especially those that rank immediately lower than her. The likes of Neutra and of course Ulquiorra. In today's video we're going to take a look then at Harribel's tenure in Bleach and see just how she stacks up to the other members of the Espada. Is the gulf between the third and the second Espada truly just enormous? Or perhaps someone like Ulquiorra simply deserved the place of the third Espada more? It would make more sense, segunda etapa or not. Let's take a look. So, why is it Harribel's position among the Espada that's called into question specifically? I think it comes down to a few different factors. Perhaps most importantly, the position of third Espada, the bronze medal, is a key one among the 10. Harribel sits at the cusp of two sides of the Espada. The top 3 Espada were once a revered and highly anticipated faction of Arrancar, and she completes 1/3 of that trifecta. At the same time though, being third opens her up for easier comparisons with those outside of the top 3 Espada as well. Stark and Barragan simply don't invite comparisons in the same way, and even feel somewhat untouchable in a sense. Speaking of which, let's begin by taking a look at her immediate counterparts, the other 2 members of the top 3 Espada. As I've mentioned in the past, people expected a lot out of the top 3 Espada, and while their overall performance is spotty at best, there's no doubt in my mind that both Stark and Barragan at least fit the profile of endgame antagonists. Both of them have absolutely terrifying abilities, the likes of which we have never seen before. Barragan is of course the clear standout, the ancient king of Waco Mundo, a position that already elevates him high above the rest of the Espada, a haunting skeletal figure garbed in regal robes who can rot anything to the bone with his breath of death. Even if it wasn't used to its full potential, and I don't think it was, the mere presence of Respirar is extremely frightening to behold. Then there's Stark, who, while slightly more low-key, has an equally stunning ability. Due to his completely immeasurable Reryoku, Stark is capable of ripping and tearing his own soul apart, seemingly limitlessly, in order to create an army of exploding wolf warheads, each one acting as an extension of Stark and Lilinet themselves. With this power, Stark merely has to stand back and watch as his pack totally overwhelms 2 Vizard captains. Not only are they unable to get a hit on the Espada himself, but they're barely able to fight back. Again, I don't necessarily think that either of these 2 characters were used to their fullest capability. But at the very least, the power we see on the page is representative of what I would expect from the two top Arrancar of Aizen's army. And then there's Harribel, who can just fling some water around. Okay, obviously that's me being a little facetious, but truth be told, there is nothing so overwhelming or terrifying to be found within Harribel's arsenal at all. First of all, before we move on to her abilities, I don't feel it really needs to be said, but Harribel is clearly an extremely skilled warrior in a physical sense. Not only does she eventually take on Hitsugaya, Lisa, and Hiyori at the same time, but mostly duels Hitsugaya on fairly even ground while he's in Bankai, which is all the more impressive in my opinion when his base ability set is just far more potent and versatile than hers appears to be. Speaking of which, seemingly the strongest ability of hers that we get to see is Cascada, where she conjures essentially a waterfall, a torrent of crushing water that then slams down upon the ground before her. But it's instantly hand-waved away like it's nothing the very next chapter, and Harribel finds herself back to square one as a result, having achieved essentially nothing. At the very least, Baragon's Respirar takes off Soifon's arm in a truly terrifying display of its power, and like I said, Stark's wolves are able to totally destroy Love and Rose, leaving them with essentially no option to fight back. So then, does the problem fundamentally lie with Harribel's abilities? Maybe, though it is cool to see another water user in a series where they are a little underserved. Harribel is able to manipulate water freely, generating it from her giant shark tooth broadsword and then wielding it as a weapon. She's able to boil water thanks to her ability of Herviendo, which again feels very situational, but we'll get into that in a minute, and her power of Lagota allows her to turn that water into a high-speed, high-powered projectile that she can seemingly fire over and over without restraint. Regardless of how skilled she is at using her tempestuous water though, there's no denying that there is simply nothing here as impactful as either Respirar or Stark's wolves. And you only have to look at Hitsugaya himself to know that. So, I don't think that Harribel's abilities are inherently the issue here, but they are a contributing factor. Still, control over water could have been used in a truly devastating way. Harribel could have conjured a massive tidal wave or a tsunami that completely decimated the streets of Karakura town, swamping the entire battlefield, but we saw nothing like that. Again, Cascada was really the closest we came to an ability like that, but when the next chapter begins and the view pans outwards, we get to see the ability in all its glory. Its scale is actually surprisingly small. But no, instead, let's take a look at Harribel's fight against Hitsugaya and the extremely perplexing way it plays out. The top three Espada fights are a bit weird in general, as we've discussed before, but Harribel's is by far the worst offender. First of all, it's the shortest of the bunch, robbed of a second half entirely by Aizen stepping in to betray the Espada and kind of usher things along. But then there's the fact that Kubo decided to pit Harribel against Hitsugaya, perhaps the one captain that she is virtually useless against. Harribel uses water, while Hitsugaya controls both ice and the weather. Hitsugaya can freeze Harribel's water and use it against her. Harribel can melt Hitsugaya's ice and turn it back on him. By the way, this is the only reason for Herviendo's existence, to give Harribel some way of reflecting Hitsugaya's attacks back at him. Weirdly though, Harribel never actually heats the water up to the point where it would scald her enemy. You would think that that would be quite effective, but it doesn't happen. Look, let's get down to brass tacks. The blunt, harsh truth is that Harribel is made to look virtually useless in her battle with the captain, given absolutely no standout moments to call her own, and every single move she makes is either turned back against her or stolen from her entirely. The only standout moment she even remotely gets comes at the very beginning of the fight. The moment she activates her Resurrection, she carves Hitsugaya in half in spectacular fashion. But in a scene that would foretell the way this fight was going to play out furthermore and the undoing of this character, Hitsugaya simply returns, having survived using his ice clone, which to this day remains one of the most reviled reveals of all time among the community. I mean, if you were there to see the furor over this, it was absolutely spectacular to behold. It's just a silly and even worse, unbelievable moment. Hitsugaya barely has time to register that Harribel has changed before being split in two, but apparently he crafted a mirrored decoy perfectly of ice to take the hit. Also, this ice clone bleeds profusely somehow, making it even weirder. I'm not kidding, this is like an illusion on the scale of Kyokusuigetsu. It immediately undermines Harribel's threat level, and she never recovers from it. Before we continue looking at whether or not Harribel deserved the position of the third Espada, first, a message from today's sponsor. Hello everyone. Oh god. Now, normally Mrs. Tomo and I would be looking at these boxes together, but unfortunately this month Jade is sick, so you're stuck with me. But regardless, we're going to be taking a look at what feels like a rather special set of snack boxes from Tokyo Treat and Sakurako this time, for both boxes are themed around the capital city of Japan itself and the very namesake of this sponsor, Tokyo. So let's start right there with Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box that includes up to 20 seasonal snacks, such as instant ramen and drinks only available in Japan for a limited time. As mentioned, this month's theme, Tokyo Snackation, invites you to journey through this incredible metropolis, indulging in snacks designed to reflect the culture, diversity, and history of such an immense place. Of course, there's so much to explore when it comes to Japan's famous capital, and Tokyo Treat does an excellent job at helping you experience just a taste of it from the comfort of your own home, with such snacks as Tokyo Shoyu Ramen, Monjayaki Squid Chips, and even a Pokemon Chocolate Marshmallow. Right, let's take a look at this box. Very colourful, very appealing. As always, there's the handy booklet that will tell us exactly what this is. Okay, so up first we have Pie No Mi Mini Pies, otherwise known as a peach tart. Filled with peach-infused white chocolate, this snack is light, flaky, and delicious. White chocolate, Jade would probably love this. Wow, that instantly smells extremely strongly of peach as soon as you bust open the box, and luckily it looks like there is quite a few in here, so Jade will be able to at least have one. It does immediately taste of peach. That comes through very strong. Very, very nice. I love the kind of dainty packaging as well. We're going to try something slightly different and go for the Koikeiya crisps, or sorry, ume chips, as they're known in here. And these are apparently a pickled sour plum flavour, which I guess hence the pink. In fact, we've got a lot of pink going on at the moment. Let's give these a go. It's a strangely sweet flavoured crisp. That's very nice, very Moorish. Of course, one of the benefits of something like Tokyo Treat, and I'm sorry, I realise I'm just sitting here eating crisps, is that you do get to experience flavours that you might not normally experience. You would never get something like this here in the UK, for example. Very nice, we need to move on, but that's very good. That's my favourite thing so far. Now, on the other hand, while Tokyo may be one of the most modern cities in the world, it is steeped in a rich history too. Something Sakurako wants to celebrate with its theme this month, the traditions of Tokyo. Sakurako has included a variety of 20 authentic snacks inspired by the confectioners of the area to help you immerse yourself in Tokyo's fabled Edo period, taking you back in time with some incredible choices including mochi monaka, vegetable karinto, and some cheese and pepper otsumami. All of which you can enjoy alongside this month's included tea, kuromame. And of course, it wouldn't be a Sakurako box without a piece of exquisite tableware. This month, fittingly, is the Tokyo plate. So these are either the Hydrangea Amber Sugar or the Hanatsumi gummies, and considering these don't have a picture of a flower on them, I'm going to assume they're not the Hydrangea ones. In fact, it shows you exactly which ones they are right there. These are the We'll try that one again. These are the Hanatsumi gummies. Yes, look at that. It's very sparkly. I love the colour as well. Gummies are historically not vegetarian friendly. However, it seems like all the gummies included in this month's Sakurako box actually are, and the booklet does let you know. Now finally we're going to go with the mochi monaka, which is apparently filled with red bean paste, one of the most popular flavours in Japan without a doubt, and something that I've only really grown accustomed to after having this sponsorship. Well, it's very flaky, but look, you can see all that delicious paste in there. That red bean paste is so nice. And it is such a lovely flavour that we just, again, do not have here at all. And of course, as discussed, no matter which box you choose, each one comes with a detailed booklet that tells you basically everything you need to know about the snacks inside, including that all-important allergen information. But that's it for June's Tokyo-themed boxes. As always, I want to say a big thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for continuing to support the channel by sponsoring today's video. If you want to treat yourself or someone you know to one of these boxes, then make sure to follow the links down in the description and the pinned comment and use my code TOMO for $5 off your purchase. Thanks everyone, and enjoy. Okay, but back to the topic at hand. From this point onwards, the fight is a lethargic game of back and forth. Hitsugaya sends an arc of ice towards Harribel, but Harribel melts it before driving the water back towards Hitsugaya. Hitsugaya freezes it once again and the process continues. Because Hitsugaya and Harribel's fight is meshed and intertwined with Soifon versus Baragon, I think it's not immediately clear just how short their fight actually is. But Harribel possibly has the shortest fight of any Espada, coming in even under Byakuya versus Zomari. But Hitsugaya manages to land a hit on Harribel, covering her in frozen water, while Harribel uses a Sero to obliterate half of Hitsugaya's wing. And, I mean, that's the closest she ever comes to actually injuring him. Throughout this tug of war, the two exchange pointless platitudes of battle with one another. It kind of feels like these characters don't really have anything to say to each other, to be honest, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I think this is probably pretty obvious by now, but this might be one of the weirdest fights in Bleach, truthfully. Basically, nothing happens for about 3 chapters, and then Hitsugaya decides to just overcome Harribel with his incredible game-winning ability of Hyoten Hyakuso. Harribel has no answer to this on this kind of scale, essentially cementing the idea that she didn't stand a chance against the captain from the start. Without so much as taking a scratch over the course of their fight, Hitsugaya seals Harribel inside a huge pillar of icy flowers, claiming that she will die once the final flower blooms. And that's seriously about it for Harribel. She's completely overwhelmed by Hyoten Hyakuso and clearly has nothing in her repertoire that can best it as she is swallowed up by the column of ice. Not only that, but unlike Baragon, who is also seemingly defeated by his opponent but survives Soifon's bankai thanks to his own power, Harribel is only freed and saved from the ice pillar thanks to the arrival of a third party, Wonderweiss, whose ear-splitting screech shatters her prison. She's still alive, yes, which doesn't seem to float with what Hitsugaya was saying, but we have no idea if the final flower ever got the chance to bloom or not. If it did, was Harribel too powerful to be killed in such a way, or would she have slowly died eventually, never being able to escape on her own? There's a possibility, of course, that Wonderweiss's shriek isn't actually breaking the pillar and Harribel herself destroys it from the inside. But if that were the case, I don't think Kubo would have depicted the ice beginning to fracture on the same page as Wonderweiss's scream. So Harribel's resurrection then has perhaps one of the most disappointing showings of any Espada. At least Zomari forced Byakuya to injure himself severely in order to win. But the thing is, even just looking at the source material, it didn't need to be this way at all. Harribel was on pace to do just as well as Stark and Baragon initially, completely dominating Hitsugaya at the start of their fight. Before she releases her Zanpakuto, Harribel is totally in control of the battle, sending Hitsugaya hurtling to the ground and actually injuring the captain. In her base form, Harribel is depicted as being ferocious, ruthless, and unforgiving, capitalizing on mistakes that Hitsugaya makes while continuing to bear down upon him. For example, Hitsugaya in desperation tries to activate his bankai as Harribel rushes towards him, but it leaves him wide open. As his wings appear, Harribel is already upon him, bringing her sword crashing down and dealing a huge hit. This kind of ferocity is inexplicably totally missing from Harribel after she's activated her release form. Originally, she is so disappointed in his lack of power that she chooses to release to end the fight quickly. But the irony is she was doing so much better beforehand. It's astonishing, really, how rapidly Harribel loses control of the battle. As I said earlier, once Hitsugaya's ice clone trickery is revealed, Harribel simply never recovers. It's like she's a totally different fighter all of a sudden. Interestingly, Harribel must have known that Hitsugaya was going to be fighting using ice since the start of their battle, so I wondered why she figured that she would be an ideal opponent for him once the fight got underway. She should have employed the same tactic that Chad and Uryu used against Demora and Icelinger and swapped opponents. But, in my opinion then, the reason Harribel feels so much weaker than Stark and Barragan isn't just as a result of her abilities, which simply aren't as exciting or impactful as theirs are. Instead, it's a symptom of a much bigger issue. Perception. Perception is the reason Harribel's position among the Espada is called into question above all others. For whatever reason, she just has a terrible time of it against all odds. She's initially portrayed as this stoic, cold badass, and opens her fight against Hitsugaya, who is a truly terrible opponent for her, as you would expect, only to go dramatically downhill. Again, let's just compare Harribel and Barragan, and the way Kubo chose to depict them through the enemies they were given. Harribel has one of the worst opponents that she could have ever asked for, but Barragan, conversely, has one of the best. Soifon is famous for being one of Soul Society's fastest Shinigami, and so it's all the more apparent when she can't hit Barragan at all. The fact that Barragan forces Soifon to slow to a crawl as she approaches him is visual proof of a terrifying mismatch for the captain, and one that paints Barragan in a great light as an enemy. As readers, we are left to wonder how on earth Soifon and Omaida are ever going to overcome Barragan. That same question never crops into your mind when wondering about how Hitsugaya will defeat Harribel. The answer seems kind of obvious. For Harribel to have this same effect against Hitsugaya, she would have to be much more akin to Basby, who gets to completely overpower the Icy Captain later on. So we've established that Harribel's showing and output is far worse than that of Stark and Barragan's. But what really hurts this character and truly calls into question her deserving of the position of the third Espada is that perception of this character through her fights is so bad that it detrimentally affects her standing among Espada ranked lower than her as well. For my money's worth, Ulquiorra comes across as considerably more impressive than Harribel on the page, and that's even before his Segunda Etapa. To be honest, I'm not even really taking Segunda Etapa into account here, as if we're to take Ulquiorra at his word, Aizen doesn't know about it, so it doesn't really factor. But even still, Ulquiorra comes across as far stronger than Harribel in his battles against Ichigo. He's terrifying to behold, a statuesque killer who is seemingly impossible to overcome. Hell, even outside of his battles with Ichigo, Ulquiorra blocks and deflects a blast from Kisuke with his bare hand, which is pretty cool. Maybe comparing anyone to Ulquiorra is a little unfair. After all, due to his close proximity to the main character, Ulquiorra is always, narratively, going to be given the most spotlight. So, how about Neutra, the fifth Espada? Neutra's slugfest with Kenpachi is brutal, and it is bloody, with both fighters being pushed to their absolute limit. In my opinion, Neutra looks way more impressive in this battle than Harribel does in her extremely short showdown with Hitsugaya. Now, there is of course a lot more to it than just how beaten up the characters get, but Neutra definitely has way more impact overall. There are times during that fight where you really feel like Kenpachi is actually on the ropes, and Neutra is consistently getting the upper hand, pardon the pun, over the 11th Division captain until the Espada is finally brought down. And even then, Neutra survives Kenpachi's initial attack, albeit barely holding himself together. But Neutra's strength is showcased to us, the reader, through a natural series of pendulum swings throughout the course of his fight with Kenpachi. Again, this just simply doesn't happen in the battle between Harribel and Hitsugaya. They are way too lethargic and lazy about their fight until all of a sudden, Hitsugaya decides he's not. Neutra ultimately puts on a much more impressive display than Harribel, but here is where things get tricky. There's just too much nuance involved to really be able to make a blanket statement, because in the end, in my opinion, almost every Espada puts on a much more impressive display than Harribel. Xyloporo, for example, feels way more dangerous than Harribel, but does that mean he then deserves to immediately jump up the list 5 places to take her spot? Of course not. It doesn't help Harribel's case either that she is fighting one of the most, I would argue, inconsistent captains in the series. Hitsugaya has had an awful lot of face time in the Rankar arc, which also means that we are able to chronicle his battles so far. Sure, while his power is being limited initially in the battle against Xiaolong, the Fraction completely dominates the captain until Gentei Kaijo is finally removed. And then against Yami, Hitsugaya feels the need to perform bankai before being taken out in a single surprise hit by Lupi. So, without any real training to speak of outside of those battle encounters, how is Hitsugaya now able to fight on par with, and even easily defeat, the third Espada? And so that brings us back to our initial question. Did Harribel deserve to be the third Espada? Honestly, I'm sure she probably did. And what makes it even more difficult is the constantly changing nature of the Espada rankings. Is Harribel here because of her lethality, her reiatsu, her aspect of death, or a mixture of all three? But while I'm sure she probably did deserve to hold the rank of the third in some respect, nothing we see on the page helps to back that up. Harribel looks less impressive than Stark and Baragon for sure, but she also comes across worse in my opinion than both Ulquiorra and Neutra, and possibly other Espada further down the line too. It's a frustrating mix of her having lackluster abilities compared to most of her contemporaries, but more importantly, the negative perception that comes from the weird choices surrounding her character. She's paired up against a captain who, first of all, is a bad matchup for her, while her fellow Espada get some great matchups to help them shine, and second of all, is inexplicably a lot more capable than he was earlier in the arc, or even earlier in their fight. And then her fight is brutally cut short in comparison as well. It's all around just very weird and makes Harribel look and feel a lot less powerful than she really should. I certainly don't think that based on what we see in the source material, swapping her and Ulquiorra would raise too many eyebrows. The question really is how well would she fare against the other Espada? And again, I can't help but feel her ability set is quite limited by comparison to some of the others. What's Harribel and her water really going to do against Neutra, the same Espada who carved up Kenpachi to the point of near death? At the same time though, Nell, who used to hold the position of the third Espada, was beating Neutra up fairly handily. He then told her that the Espada ranks have changed since she was last in Las Noches, implying by that statement that Harribel is even stronger than Nell would be, so it's kind of hard to say. But certainly, I think Harribel could be demoted to fourth, and people wouldn't be too surprised. But that's it for the video, guys. I'd love to know what you think about Harribel and her position as the third Espada. Does she deserve to be there? Does Ulquiorra deserve that position a little more? Based on what we see of Harribel in the source material, where do you think she really should be within the Espada ranks? Or do you think third is just right for this character, and if so, what makes you say that? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this topic down in the comments below, so do please let me know. And as always, I want to end the video by saying a massive thank you and giving a huge shout out to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. I really do appreciate each and every one of you so very much. If you enjoy what I do here over on YouTube and you want to support me another step further, you can do just that to get your name in the credits like this and to get every video I release absolutely ad-free. Alright guys, but until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.